My name is Emma Whitaker, and I was 30 years old when my parents gave my bedroom to my younger sister while I was standing in the hallway holding my suitcase. They did it on a rainy Thursday evening, with my mother smiling like she had solved a family problem, and my father acting as if I was unreasonable for wanting a place to sleep in the house I had quietly owned for nearly 3 years. The funny thing was, they didn't know that part yet. To them, it was still the family house. To me, it was the house my grandmother had saved from being sold, the house I had paid taxes on, repaired, insured, and protected while everyone else treated it like a museum of their own comfort. I had not planned to tell them that night. I came home because my mother called crying. "Emma, we need you," she said. Those 4 words had pulled me back into that house more times than I could count. When Dad's blood pressure went up, when Mom needed help sorting bills, when my sister Claire had another emergency, when something broke and no one wanted to pay a professional. I had learned long ago that in my family, "we need you" usually meant, "we need your money, your time, or your silence." Still, I came. Because I was tired, because I still had hope in places I pretended were healed, and because my apartment lease had ended that week. I was supposed to stay at the house for 2 months while the small condo I bought was being renovated. My parents had agreed. Not only agreed, they had insisted. "Of course you can come home," Mom said. "Your room is always your room. Your room is always your room." That sentence stayed with me through the long drive, through the rain, through the nervous ache of returning to a house that had never felt fully safe even when I lived there. The house sat at the end of Linden Street, a 2-story brick home with white shutters, a wraparound porch, and an old maple tree in the front yard. My grandfather built the porch himself. My grandmother planted the roses along the fence. Every floorboard had a memory, though not all of them were gentle. My room was upstairs on the left, pale green walls, window facing the maple tree, a built-in bookshelf my grandfather made before I was born. When I was little, I used to sit by the window and draw houses I imagined escaping into. I did not know then that one day I would technically own the one I wanted to escape from. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw Claire's car already there. That should have warned me. Claire was 26, pretty, dramatic, and allergic to consequences. She had recently broken up with her boyfriend, Mason, after he discovered she had been using his credit card for shared expenses that mostly involved clothes, spa appointments, and a weekend trip with friends. In my parents' version, Mason had abandoned her during a vulnerable time. In reality, he had asked her to pay him back and she had moved out before he could take her to small claims court. Mom opened the door before I could knock. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, hugging me quickly. "You're soaked." Behind her, the house smelled like chicken soup and lavender candles. It looked the same at first glance. Family photos in the hallway, Grandma's clock ticking near the stairs, Dad's jacket hanging over the banister instead of in the closet. But then I noticed boxes stacked by the living room wall. Pink boxes, Claire's boxes. My stomach tightened. "Is Claire staying here too?" I asked. Mom's face changed for just half a second. "Yes," she said lightly, "just for a while." "How long is a while?" "She's been through a lot, Emma." There it was. The family anthem. Claire has been through a lot. Not Claire caused a lot. Not Claire needs to fix a lot. Just Claire has been through a lot, as if life kept happening to her while she stood there innocently in expensive boots. Dad appeared from the kitchen, holding a mug of coffee. "Hey, Em." He kissed my cheek, then looked at my suitcase. "You brought everything?" "I told you my lease ended." Right. He said it like I had mentioned bringing a plant. Claire came down the stairs then, wearing one of my old oversized sweaters. My sweater. Gray, soft, with a small tear near the cuff. I had left it in my room years ago when I moved out after college. Seeing it on her body made something cold open in me. "Emma," she said brightly, "you're here." "Yes," she smiled. "This is going to be so fun, like old times." Old times were mostly me cleaning up after her and being told I was jealous if I complained. I forced a smile. "Where are my things?" The hallway went quiet. Mom clasped her hands. That's actually what we wanted to talk about. I looked upstairs. No, I knew before she said it. Claire needed the bigger room, Mom said quickly. Just temporarily. She has more things and she's emotionally fragile right now. Your father and I thought you could take the guest room. The guest room was not a room. It was a narrow space over the garage with a fold-out bed, 2 broken lamps, and boxes of holiday decorations stacked against one wall. It smelled like dust and old wrapping paper. It was where cousins slept during Thanksgiving when every better option was taken. I looked at Claire. She lowered her eyes, but I saw the tiny smile before she did. You moved into my room. She sighed. Emma, don't make it sound like that. How should I make it sound? Mom stepped closer. It's just a room. Then she can take the guest room. Claire's eyes filled immediately. I knew you'd do this, she whispered. Dad set his mug down too hard on the console table. Emma. That one word had followed me my whole life. Emma meant stop. Emma meant be mature. Emma meant your sister is crying, so reality has changed. I turned to him. What? Your sister's life just fell apart. No, Dad. Her relationship ended because she stole from her boyfriend. Claire gasped. Mom's face went pale. That is not necessary. It's true. She made mistakes, Mom snapped. And now I lose my room for them? Dad rubbed his forehead. You're 30 years old. You don't need a childhood bedroom. I need the room you told me I could stay in. We are offering you a place to stay, he said. I laughed once, quietly. Offering. That word almost did it. They were offering me space in a house they believed was theirs because no one had ever forced them to read the paperwork. The truth began 3 years earlier when my grandmother, Rose Whitaker, died. Grandma Rose was my father's mother, and she was the only person in that family who never confused quiet with weakness. She loved me with a steadiness that embarrassed everyone else. She taught me how to bake apple bread, how to balance a checkbook, and how to tell when someone was asking for help versus asking for control. When she got sick, I was the one who drove her to appointments. I was the one who picked up prescriptions, organized her bills, sat beside her during chemo, and listened when she talked about the house. Your father loves the feeling of this place, she told me once, lying in bed while rain tapped against the window. But he doesn't understand the responsibility of it. I didn't answer. I knew she was right. My parents lived in the house after Grandpa died because Grandma moved into a small downstairs suite and said family should be close. At first, Dad helped. Then he stopped. Mom redecorated rooms and called it caretaking. Claire came by when she needed money. I came by when Grandma needed someone to clean the gutters, challenge an insurance bill, or sit with her after bad news. 2 months before she died, Grandma asked me to meet her attorney. I thought she wanted help with medical forms. Instead, she signed the house into a trust, with me as the beneficiary after her death. My parents could live there for as long as I allowed it, as long as taxes, insurance, and basic maintenance were covered. Grandma knew they wouldn't cover them, so she left me a small account for the first year and told me the rest would be my choice. Do not let them guilt you into giving away what I am leaving you, she said. Grandma, Dad will be hurt. He will be angry, she corrected. That is not always the same thing. After she died, her attorney, Mr. Alvarez, explained everything to me privately. I was stunned. My parents were not told the full details immediately because Grandma had written the trust with a period of transition. Dad believed the house had been left for family use, which was vague enough for him to hear what he wanted. I did not correct him at first. Maybe that was my mistake. But grief is messy. I did not want to throw legal documents onto my grandmother's dining table while my father cried over her chair. I started paying the taxes quietly, then the insurance, then the roof repair, then the plumbing. Every time something happened, Dad would grumble about how expensive houses were, and I would say, I'll handle it. He never asked why I could. He never asked whose name was on the invoices. He just accepted the help and kept calling it his mother's house. For 3 years, I protected the house. For 3 years, they lived there like ownership was an emotion. And now they were offering me the guest room. I looked at my mother. Where are my things? She hesitated. Claire answered. Most of it is in the basement. My chest tightened. The basement? It was boxed already, she said defensively. It was not boxed. It was in my room. Mom said, we had to make space. You moved my furniture? Dad sighed. Emma, please, your sister needed comfort. And I needed respect. Claire's face twisted. You always act like everyone is attacking you. I stared at her. You are wearing my sweater in my bedroom after moving my belongings into a basement. She looked down at the sweater, then crossed her arms. It was just sitting there. That doesn't make it yours. Mom rubbed her temples. This is exactly the kind of tension we were trying to avoid. No, I said. You were trying to avoid telling me before I arrived because you knew I would say no. Dad's voice hardened. This is our house, Emma. The hallway went silent. My mother looked at him quickly. Claire stood taller. I felt something inside me go very still. There are moments when anger burns hot. This was not one of them. This was cold, clear, almost peaceful. I set my suitcase upright. No, I said. Dad blinked. Excuse me? No, I repeated. It isn't. Claire laughed. What does that mean? I looked at the stairs, at Grandma's clock, at the living room doorway where family photos hung in frames my mother chose. My childhood was everywhere in that house, but so was my exhaustion. Then I looked back at my father. It means this house does not belong to you. His face turned red. Don't be ridiculous, Mom whispered. Emma, she knew. Maybe not everything, but enough to fear the next sentence. Dad pointed at me. My mother left this house to the family. She left it in a trust, I said. For me. Claire's mouth opened. Dad stared. For a moment, the only sound was the clock ticking. Then he laughed. Not because it was funny, because he needed it to be impossible. You're lying. I picked up my purse, pulled out the folder I had brought with me for the condo contractor, and removed a copy of the deed and trust summary Mr. Alvarez had told me to keep on hand. I placed it on the console table beside Dad's mug. His eyes dropped to the papers. Mom did not move. Claire stepped closer, suddenly pale. What is that? She asked. The trust summary, I said. The deed transfer, property tax records, insurance policy, maintenance invoices, all in my name. Dad picked up the first page. His hands shook slightly. I hated noticing that. For all his faults, he was still my father. Some small child part of me still wanted him not to be humiliated. But he had not worried about humiliating me while telling me I could sleep above the garage. This can't be right, he said. It is. Mom would have told me. She tried. You didn't listen. That was true. Grandma had asked him several times to meet with her attorney. Dad always said later. Later never came. Claire grabbed the paper from his hand. Wait, so you own the house? I looked at her. Yes. Her face changed faster than I expected. Fear first, then calculation, then offense. So you let us think. I let you live here. Dad's head snapped up. What did you just say? I said I let you live here. I paid the taxes. I paid the insurance. I paid for the roof after the leak. I paid the plumber when the downstairs bathroom flooded. I paid for the heating system last winter. Mom sat down on the bottom stair. Her face had gone white. Dad looked at her. Diane, she whispered. I knew Emma was handling some things. Some things, I said. Mom, the tax office sends every notice to me. The insurance company calls me. The contractor for the roof shook my hand in this hallway while Dad was watching TV. Dad looked wounded now, which made me angrier, because he was not wounded by what they had done. He was wounded by not being in control. You should have told me, he said. I tried after the funeral. You said you didn't want to talk about legal nonsense while grieving. That was different. Then last year, when I brought up the property taxes, you said I was making things complicated. Mom covered her mouth. Claire looked between us. So what, are you kicking us out? I turned to her. That depends, she scoffed. Wow. No, I said, don't do that. Don't make yourself the victim because consequences finally entered the room. Her eyes filled, but this time nobody moved to comfort her. Dad held the papers like they might bite him. This house was my mother's. Yes, I said, and she left it to me because I was the one taking care of it. His face cracked. For a second, grief moved through his anger. You think I didn't love my mother? I think you loved her. I also think you let me do the work. That landed harder than I expected. Dad sat down slowly in the hallway chair. My mother whispered, Emma, please, we didn't know. You didn't ask, Claire snapped, because normal people don't secretly own the family house. I looked at her. Normal people don't move someone's belongings into a basement and give away their room without asking. She looked away. I went upstairs. No one stopped me. My room looked like a stranger wearing my skin. The pale green walls were now covered with framed prints Claire had brought from Mason's apartment. My bookshelf held her candles, perfume bottles, and a row of self-help books with uncracked spines. My bedspread was gone. My desk was gone. The framed photo of Grandma and me at the county fair had been moved to the windowsill, face down. That broke me more than the room itself. I picked up the frame. The glass was cracked. Not shattered, but cracked across Grandma's face. I stood there holding it until my anger became something deeper, not louder, final. Claire appeared in the doorway. I didn't know that was important, she said. I did not turn around. It was face down. She was silent, then smaller. I'm sorry. I looked at her. I wanted to believe her. Maybe part of her was sorry in that moment, but Claire's apologies had always been weather. They came, they passed, and nothing structural changed. You have until Sunday to move out of this room. Her eyes widened. Emma, Sunday. Where am I supposed to go? The guest room, a friend's, Mom and Dad's room, somewhere Mason didn't pay for. Her mouth tightened. That was cruel. No. Cruel is what you did because you thought I had no power to object. She started crying again, but it sounded different this time. Less performance, more panic. Downstairs, I heard my parents speaking in low voices. Dad sounded angry. Mom sounded afraid. I slept that night at a hotel, not in the guest room, not in my stolen bedroom, not under a roof I owned but no longer felt welcomed beneath. At 9:12 the next morning, my father called. I let it ring. At 9:14, Mom called. I answered. Emma, she said, voice raw. Can we meet? About what? The house. Not as a family conversation, I said. With Mr. Alvarez. Silence. Then she said, Your father won't like that. I know. He feels betrayed. I laughed once. Mom, I came home with a suitcase and found my room given away. I know. No, I don't think you do. You feel scared because the power changed. I felt betrayed because nothing changed until you found out I owned the walls. She began crying. I'm sorry. For once, I did not soften. Good. Be sorry at Mr. Alvarez's office at 3. I hung up. The meeting was quiet in the way legal rooms often are. Beige walls, polished table, water glasses, no place for family drama to hide. Mr. Alvarez was in his 60s, calm, neatly dressed, with kind eyes that did not make him weak. He had known Grandma for 20 years. He had warned me this day might come. My parents sat across from me. Claire came too, though I had not invited her. She wore sunglasses indoors and looked like she hoped tragedy would count as a legal argument. Mr. Alvarez explained the trust. He explained the deed. He explained that I was the legal owner. He explained that my parents had no ownership rights, only residence by my permission. He explained that I could establish formal occupancy terms, require contributions, restrict rooms, or ask them to vacate with proper notice if boundaries were not respected. My father interrupted twice. Both times, Mr. Alvarez calmly returned to the documents. Finally, Dad said, My mother never would have wanted me thrown out. Mr. Alvarez looked at him for a long moment. No, he said. She wanted you to be responsible enough not to force Emma into that position. Dad went silent. Claire crossed her arms. So what does Emma want? Everyone looked at me. That question used to terrify me. What do you want, Emma? Because wanting anything in my family was treated like selfishness unless it benefited someone else. But I knew now. I want formal terms, I said. Mom and Dad can stay for now, but they will pay monthly rent equal to the property tax and insurance portion, starting next month. They will pay utilities directly. Any repairs over $200 go through me first. No room changes without my written permission. No one else moves in without my approval. Claire laughed bitterly. So I'm homeless? I looked at her. You are 26 years old. You are not homeless because you can't take my bedroom. Mom whispered. Could she use the guest room temporarily? For 30 days, I said. In writing. After that, she needs another arrangement. Claire stared at me like she hated me. Dad said, This is cold. No, I said. This is clear. Mr. Alvarez wrote everything down. My father refused to sign at first. Then Mr. Alvarez gently reminded him that the alternative was formal notice to vacate. Dad signed. Mom signed. Claire signed the 30-day temporary occupancy agreement with a hand so tense the pen scratched through the paper. I moved back into my room that Sunday. Claire had removed her things but left it messy, maybe as a final small punishment. Perfume scent lingered. There were scratches on the dresser. My old desk was in the basement, one leg cracked from being dragged. I brought it upstairs anyway. Nathan, my best friend from college, came to help. He was not family, which meant he actually helped without making me pay emotionally for it. He carried boxes up, tightened the desk leg, and rehung the photo of Grandma and me after replacing the cracked glass. She'd be proud of you, he said. I looked at the photo. She'd probably say I waited too long. He smiled. Also that. For the next month, the house felt like a storm pretending to be weather. My father barely spoke to me. Mom tried too hard, offering tea, meals, laundry, anything that would make the relationship feel normal without addressing the rot underneath. Claire spent 3 weeks in the guest room complaining loudly on the phone about being kicked out of the family home. I did not correct her. People who wanted the truth could ask me. Some did. Aunt Linda called. I heard you're evicting everyone, she said. I'm not. But the house is yours? Yes. A pause. Your grandmother always said you were the only one who knew how to keep a roof from becoming a weapon. I sat down on the edge of my bed. She said that. She said a lot of things people didn't like hearing. That sounded like Grandma. Claire moved out on day 29, not gracefully. She slammed doors, cried, called me heartless, and told Mom she would never feel safe in the family again. Mom started to follow her to the porch, then stopped halfway and looked back at me. I do not know what she saw in my face. Maybe exhaustion. Maybe the answer to a question she had avoided for years. She let Claire go alone. That was the first real change. Dad came to my room 2 days later. He knocked. That was the second. Come in, I said. He stood awkwardly just inside the doorway, looking around at the restored bookshelf, the pale green walls, the photo of Grandma upright again. I forgot how much this room looked like you, he said. I did not answer. He cleared his throat. I've been angry. I noticed. He almost smiled, but it faded quickly. I kept thinking Mom chose you over me, that she trusted you more. I looked at him. She did. He flinched, then nodded. She had reason to. That surprised me. He sat carefully on the chair by the window. I wasn't there the way I should have been. For her, for the house, for you. The room went quiet. Outside, the maple branches moved in the wind. I let you become the dependable one, he continued. Then I resented you for knowing things I didn't. That's not fair. No, he said, it wasn't. I waited. He looked at his hands. I'm sorry we gave your room to Claire. It was such a small sentence for such a large wound. But it was exact. Not, I'm sorry you felt hurt. Not we were trying to help your sister. Not you know how she is. I'm sorry we gave your room to Claire. Thank you, I said. His eyes were wet when he looked up. I don't know how to fix it. You start by not asking me to pretend it didn't happen. He nodded. I can do that. I wanted to believe him. Not fully, but enough to let the conversation sit. Mom's apology came later, in the kitchen, over 2 mugs of coffee neither of us drank. I thought loving Claire meant making space for her, she said. It did, I answered, just not by taking mine, she cried. I know that now. Do you? She wiped her face. I'm learning. That became the word for the next year. Learning. Dad learned to transfer rent on the 1st of each month without making a comment. Mom learned to ask before moving furniture. Claire learned slowly and badly that my no did not turn into yes if she cried long enough. I learned that owning a house and feeling at home in it were not the same thing, but one could help build the other. I moved into my condo 4 months later after renovations finished. I did not sell the house. I did not move my parents out, but I changed the locks and gave them new keys under a written agreement, not because I wanted control for its own sake, because boundaries written down are sometimes the only language certain families respect. 2 years later, we held Thanksgiving at the house. My room remained my room, though I no longer slept there often. Mom had asked if she could turn the guest room into a craft space after Claire found her own apartment. Asked, not announced. Claire arrived with a pie she had bought from a bakery and a boyfriend who seemed kind but cautious. Before dinner, she came upstairs and stood in my doorway. I never apologized properly, she said. I looked up from the book I was placing on the shelf. You apologized when you wanted to keep the room. She winced. I know. That wasn't real. I waited. She took a breath. I'm sorry I moved into your room. I'm sorry I wore your sweater and acted like your things didn't matter. I was angry at Mason and embarrassed, and I liked that Mom and Dad were choosing me. That doesn't make it okay. No tears, no performance, just the sentence. I nodded slowly. Thank you. She looked relieved and sad at the same time. Do you forgive me? Some days, I said honestly. She accepted that. That was new too. At dinner, Dad gave a toast. Nothing grand, no dramatic family healing speech, just a quiet raising of his glass. To your grandmother, he said, who knew this house better than any of us. Then he looked at me. And to Emma, who kept it standing. Nobody argued. Nobody corrected him. Nobody said Claire had been through a lot. The house felt different that night. Not perfect, not magically healed, but honest enough to breathe in. Sometimes I still think about the moment in the hallway when my father said, "This is our house." He meant it as a final word. Instead, it became the doorway to the truth. My parents gave my room to my sister because they believed I owned nothing in that house except old memories and the duty to understand. They did not know my grandmother had left me the deed. They did not know I had been paying for the roof over their heads. They did not know that the daughter they kept pushing into smaller spaces was the only reason they still had a home to stand in. And when they finally learned the truth, I did not throw them out. I did something harder. I made them knock.